Welcome to Hair by Sonia, where hair transformation begins. Whether you're looking for a fresh cut, bold color, or a complete makeover, Sonia and her expert team have you covered. At Hair by Sonia, we believe every client deserves to feel confident and beautiful. That's why we use only the best products and techniques tailored just for you. From the moment you walk in, you'll experience personalized care and a relaxing atmosphere designed to pamper you. Our clients love their results. Just look at these amazing transformations. Join our family of satisfied clients and discover why Hair by Sonia is the go-to salon for your hair needs. Ready for a change? Book your appointment today and let us bring out the best in your hair. Hair by Sonia. Love your hair. Love yourself. She says sports. She say sports. She say sports. She say sports. She say sports. Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia and welcome back to She Say Sports. Please welcome back award-winning journalist and host of Listen In with KNN. Please welcome my girl, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. What's up, Kay?
Hi, Sonia. It's so good to see you again and to be here with you. So thank you so much for having me and hello to everyone. I know it's been a little while.
Hey, okay. So I see the K. Is that for Kelsey? What's going on?
You could say it's for Kelsey, but that's something I added a little extra.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to my sorors of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority.
Absolutely. I wish you had. I could have worn my Delta shirt today, but
next time
you're gonna come up here next time. Especially we got 6 weeks before, like 41 days before the election or something. So
yes, and hopefully my soror is in the White House here in DC.
We definitely gonna wear them then. Yes, for sure.
So please go vote, folks. Had to give that quick message.
Please
Every
go
vote matters.
Every vote matters. Don't think yours doesn't. It really, really does.
Yep.
And speaking of that, I'm gonna briefly tell a story about that. It was a gentleman I met maybe a couple of months ago. It was in June. Okay. And we got to talking about when President Biden, was still gonna run at that point. And because this was right after the debate. And he was like, well, I like Donald Trump. And I'm like, what do you like about him? Because I'm just curious. And he was like, he's just real. I said, what is he real about? I mean, what are you talking about?
Go in depth, go in detail.
But he couldn't. And so then he goes on to tell me, he said, well, I'm a felon and I won't be able to vote anyway. I said, well, in some cases, some felons in certain states can.
Right.
And he's in Mississippi. And I said, if I do the research, and if you can, would you consider filling out a voter's registration application? Because he's never voted in his life.
Oh my gosh,
And so according to what he was the felon for, he was able to vote.
Oh, wow.
So I took the registration application to him a couple of weeks ago. I had a little bow on it.
Yeah.
And I presented it to him and asked him to fill it out or whatever. And I called him the next day and he said he wasn't going to do it.
Oh, man.
He changed his mind. Why? He didn't say. And I didn't want to pressure it.
Yeah.
So I said, well, he has it. Maybe he will
his mind could always change because
that's why I didn't want to pressure him.
It's so powerful. Like I mean, obviously, I could never walk in his shoes, and we all walk in different shoes. But like, I know for me, as soon as I turned 18, Sonia, I could not wait to vote.
Yes,
To just
I was
feel like
so
I had a
excited.
voice in something and something mattered. And then I think when you see so many things that impact your lives, and believe me, I'm a person that says, please first vote on the local level, stuff that really immediately
Correct.
impacts your life.
Exactly.
And then, of course, now I live in DC and I see politics up close and personal every single day. But all that to say, I mean, if you haven't seen these elections and these numbers and not realize how much your voice and vote matters, like, I don't know what else to tell you. I tell this to my students every class,
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna tell you how to vote, but please vote, and please vote, in line with your values. And if you're talking about keeping it real, look at people's records and see who has kept it real. Do
Yeah.
your research, do your history, and just hopefully you'll make the most informed decision possible.
Well, when I did give him the application, his mind had changed. So
Mm.
he said, I will vote for Vice President Kamala Harris. And I was
Yeah,
like, okay. I said, and people was like, don't give it to him because that'll be a vote for Donald Trump. I said, no. I said, I'm not going to tell him how to vote.
right.
I just want him to use his voice.
Yeah.
Registered, no, I wouldn't want him to, but that's his choice. So, it is what it is. But I do hope he changes his mind.
Me and you
So
both.
what was that?
I said me and you both, because I just hope you
Yeah,
realize power, and especially to have a power taken away from you for so long of your life, like to have that power now. I,
yes,
I hope he feels empowered, Sonia, to
exactly.
put that vote in.
I totally agree. I really do hope he does, and I hope he texts me and said he does it. So we'll see. But moving on, I want to discuss this real quick because I do not want to discuss it at the end of my show
Yeah.
to be down from my show for me. Um, Jackson State traveled to Grambling um, on Saturday, and Grambling beat Jackson State 41-20.
Yeah.
Um, they took major advantage of the turnovers that Jackson State had. We had so many turnovers, especially in the first and second quarter.
Yep.
However, the only reason why I'm bringing this up because you have nothing to do with Grambling, but your father does. And I'm bringing it up because he's not only a SWAC man, he's a G man. And he loves Grambling like I love Jackson
He
State.
does. I
So
think he loves Gremlin as much as he loves me. I think we're like,
y'all may be neck and neck. And
it's like
so,
my brother I never had. That's what Gremlin is.
right, exactly. So, did he have any comments or anything
My
to tell
gosh,
me?
yeah. When I tell you my dad is the happiest person right now, not just from that game, but then, we had the recent primetime game with the Commanders facing off against the Cincinnati Bengals. And you guys
That
might
was
have
a
saw
really
Jade.
good game.
And we had our guy, Jaden Daniels, throw his first NFL pass to a G-man,
Yes.
Gremlin man, and Trent Scott. So Gremlin is all over the news right now, all in the headlines. So I think my dad is probably the happiest person right now in America, I'm going to say, because I mean, Gremlin is having good strides, and I'm so excited
Yes.
for them. And
Yes.
I think, I was just gonna say, I think this football program, I think it needs it, after everything that happened with Hugh Jackson. Obviously, you get a fresh start this year. We know the history and legacy, something of this storied football program, and we know the rivalry that exists there. Like we know what exists in the SWAC. So I will say, like you said, I know Gremlin was kind of gifted something, but hey, if another team has turnovers, it's on you to take advantage of them, right? And they
Absolutely.
absolutely did. And so I think that's all props to Gremlin. I know some injuries also impacted Jackson State. Obviously, you never want to see your quarterback go out. I know that has been a little issue with Jackson State, and hopefully they figure that out. But all in all, I am happy for the G-Men really establishing themselves and making sure folks in the SWAC know this is exactly who Grambling State is.
Oh yeah, whatever. I mean, hey, they've been, this is their first win in a few years against us. So, congratulations, Gremlin. You
That's
got
our
it.
little higher in Grambling, Louisiana.
And it's amazing. Like you said, it's our problem if we had the turnovers. We had one turnover against Southern the week before. So I'm so like, what the freak happened? I did not go to the game, nor did I watch it, but I was getting the updates on my ESPN on my phone, and I was like, I can't believe this. Oh my God. So
You're trying to
it's
figure out
whatever.
what happens.
Yes. Sigh. Anyway, congratulations to
It
your
makes the
dad.
rivalry better, though. You can't have you
It
need
does.
somebody new to pop up
It
and
does. It does.
and what a great crowd too, by the way. I saw the crowd like that. That was exciting, I think, all around
Yeah.
for football
Oh
fans.
yeah. Now that's one thing. Jackson State travels. We are a traveling team for sure. But Yeah, tell him congratulations. I wanted to talk to him soon, but I'll wait till next year. I don't want to do it. I
Once he
don't want
sees
to
the
do
show,
it.
you'll probably get a phone call. When you see that 301 area code, you know who it is.
I know who it is. Well, Kelsey, a game that you did go to on this past weekend, it was the Truth and Service Classic
Yeah.
between Howard University Bisons and Hampton University Pirates. The Bisons team fell behind 14-0, but rallied to tie the game. But ultimately, Hampton University was able to hold off the Bison 27-20 in the fourth annual Truth and Service Classic at
Yeah.
Audi Field in front of 16,813
Yeah.
fans.
Another good crowd.
Yeah,
HBCU making
that's
statements this
right.
early this football season. I love to see it.
I love it. I love it. So, Kelsey, why do they call the classic the Truth and Service? Why that? I
Honestly,
have an
that's a great
idea,
question. I
but
don't even know if I know that answer. I'm assuming I would think maybe a military tribute. But I will tell you
oh,
something,
okay.
like this game is so important. It had been around for a while, and then it had stopped, and now it's back. And if you
Mhm.
don't know about HBCUs, and if you don't know about HBCUs here in this area where I am, the Battle of the Real HU is a real deal. Like folks who went to Howard and Hampton, like they feel away when they wear that HU
Right.
on their chest. And let me tell you, it was a phenomenal. Like DJ Envy, Sonia was the official DJ of the game. He was rocking
Mm,
his Hampton gear, and that was great. He also DJ'd the official after party. That was also a lot of fun after the game. And then this one, it got close. Like you said, first, it looked like there was no hope for Howard. There's a lot of Howard fans in attendance. They were throwing their hands up on their heads. They thought it was over, right? They were like, oh man, we came all the way here to Audi Field. And then all of a sudden, they were able to rally back, like you said. And, shout out to the run game. I think that was really, really huge for Howard. Honestly, Howard lost because they couldn't find any offensive consistency, right? You got to
mhm.
get to an offensive groove, and they kept having drives stop short. And that is also props, right, to Hampton's defense. I can't take anything away from that. I think Hampton was a bit more disciplined that game. But for folks that don't know, Eden James, the son of Hall of Famer Edwin James, is a running back for Howard University, and he had a pretty solid
Okay.
game. So super, super exciting, to see that part. And, at the end of the day, it wasn't a blowout. It wasn't as bad as that Jackson State Grambling score, I must say. They lost by a touchdown.
That was a good
It was
game. I
good,
wish
and
I had
fans
saw that
stayed to
game.
the end. And it's so funny.
Yeah.
Right after the game, like about 20 minutes after, it just starts pouring. And it's funny. Some Howard fans said, that's God crying for the loss. But I really just thought, hey, God was looking out for us football fans and made sure we got through the game before the rain
Yeah.
started.
I really do think God is a sports fan. I really do. Especially when the Bulls were like in their heyday, because it was things that Michael was doing that was like
Unearthly.
miraculous.
Like, who
It,
is
it was
this
it was
guy? It's
definitely unearthly. Yeah,
unreal.
I agree. I agree. So, Kelsey, how does the Truth and Service Classic foster a sense of unity and purpose among attendees?
I
What
think
do
it's great
you see?
because so I think especially, I think DC is such a unique area, right? Like we have so many
Mhm.
HBCUs here. And so I think you're exposed to that culture early on, right? But essentially I think this game was big one because it was at Audi Field. And for folks that don't know Audi Field, this is where the DC United soccer team plays, our Washington Spirit play, our brand new DC Power Soccer Club, one of the newest sports franchise here in DC. So all of that to say, like, professional entities play here. It's a very nice stadium if you haven't been. But I think what was beautiful, you have all the vendors outside selling all types of gear. Maybe the shirt came from a vendor recently that was selling that was selling gear outside the stadium. I met a Black-owned coffee brand based out of Atlanta who said they have plans to move here in DC. And let me tell you, some of the best Ethiopian coffee, Sonia, I've ever had. Like I was immediately awake and alert after drinking it, and it was already sweet. Like I didn't have to put anything in it. I was like, they understand how Kelsey likes coffee. But
Right.
it was just beautiful to see, honestly, Black excellence. Like I think DC has
Yeah.
been hit by that so often recently. If you saw like the celebration brunch at the White House recently during Congressional
Mhm.
Black Caucus, when everybody was in all white, and then going to Audi Field and kind of just seeing so many hues of melanin and just sports fans talking trash, having fun, but at the end of the day, leaving the stadium together. I think it's so important. And like I said, it's something that had stopped for a little bit. But
Mhm.
Sonia, if I take you back to early in my broadcast career, I'll never forget when John Wall was here in DC and he went to his first ever
Mm.
Howard Hampton game. And he was amazed by the atmosphere because he said, look, I went to Kentucky. I never experienced this atmosphere.
Right.
And he talked about what it meant for him. He's like, this is a vibe, I just had an experience. And I thought that was such an amazing quote and soundbite from him. And it got all this traction, but it mattered. Like, and I think that's what HBCUs are able to do. Because now that game happened, everybody's gearing up for Howard homecoming. I mean, Howard and Hampton, they're two prestigious HBCUs that have really, I think, made a statement and impact, not just in the Black
Mhm.
community, I'd say in the community as a whole, and people want to be part of it. So I do want to give a big shout out to Events DC, who presented the classic. And I think they did a phenomenal job doing it. Like I said, the crowd was amazing, and already folks Howard folks especially are waiting to get back and hopefully get in the win column. So it was just beautiful to see the city come together, especially during a time like we just talked about with the presidential election coming up. That's kind of a little bit crazy right now as we kind of draw nearer and nearer to November.
You know, you mentioned earlier, it's something about HBCUs and the unity of schools and
Yeah.
of the people. Southern is our biggest rival overall in the
Yeah.
SWAC. And 2 weeks ago, we played a few days after Frankie Beverly passed away, and
Yeah.
they played Before I Let Go. And when I say
I saw that online.
33,000 voices singing Before I Let Go, it was amazing. And I'm getting chills because it's something about us.
Yeah.
I mean,
when we come together, it's powerful. It's
powerful. And that's why so many people fight it, because they know. They know if we ever come together as a whole in different, not just football and music, but politics, anything, bringing us together, it's a wrap. And so it's just, you're right. I love it.
It's a feeling you have to experience. And that's really what it is. It's an experience. You're not just going to watch the game. It's an experience. Obviously, the bands were going down, and, same like you said, I think Frankie Beverly is living within all of us. I think you're going to continue to contribute, because that's how much he meant for the culture, right, as a whole. And that was him. He brought us together. That's also another point. Like, I just love seeing Black schools get that right, and know how to, again, just kind of use that memory to, at a tough time, so many of us love Frankie, to bring us closer and closer together.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So you mentioned Audi Field earlier. Is the Classic only played at Audi, or they alternate at different fields?
They have been doing it only at Audi, again, in this new iteration. So this was the fourth one, as you mentioned. But honestly, if you haven't been to DC, Audi Field is such the perfect backdrop. So it sits in Southwest DC. So you're like close to the water. It's a whole new development area. It looks like a brand new apartment building that's going right up by it. Super easy to get to. You can take the metro, you can take the bus, you can drive, right? Like, I love that it's there. And Audi is a newer stadium here in DC, right? So it's not anybody just in a rinky dinky place. Like, that's a newer stadium. They have the suites were filled, and they have, I don't know if they have this in other states, but they have suites on the ground. So you're right behind the players. That's one of my favorite features of Audi. It almost feels like you're part, of the game. So all that to say, I think it's such a great place. And I think that just shows that they respect it here, in the nation's capital, right? It's not just something to say that we did it. It's something I think that they're wanting to stay true to and not be true.
Okay. I'm going to have to pick,
you have to come. You have to come down and join us.
Yeah, I'm going to have, I've heard some nice things about it, but it was just like, seemed like a good game, nice crowd, and good time. So I'm gonna have to check it out for sure. So we're gonna move on. On yesterday, Hall of Famer Brett Favre was he was before the congressional hearing yesterday regarding TANF allegations he's been a part of the last 3 years. As you know, he was accused of taking $1 million for speaking engagements that he never did. And finally, he gave the $1 million back, but he owes about $228,000 in interest, and not sure why he hasn't paid that back. But yesterday, during the hearing, he revealed that he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurological disorder that primarily affects movement. It occurs when the nerve cells in the brain that produce dopamine, a neurotransmitter that helps control movement, begin to degenerate, or die. A 2020 study found that having a single concussion increased the risk of developing Parkinson's disease by 57%, and having multiple concussions further compounds the danger. In an interview Brett Favre recently had, he said that he's had either hundreds or thousands of concussions, and the news of the diagnosis overshadowed his testimony at the hearing. Do you think Favre used this platform at the congressional hearing to reveal his diagnosis to gain sympathy?
My gosh, there's so much here. And I will tell you, Brett Favre is such a hard topic to talk about, I'm sure for both of
Yeah.
us. One, because you live in Mississippi, and two, because I have lived in Mississippi and I have family from Mississippi. And I think I'm going to tell you, I feel like his lawyers played the card right, right? Anytime
Okay.
somebody can play the sympathy card and get sympathy and to distract us, I think that happens a lot. And let me tell you, that does not mean I'm not sympathetic. Like I'm sympathetic to
Of
anybody,
course.
any type of
Mhm.
Parkinson's disease. I think we saw it most notably with Muhammad Ali, right? And we saw him
Yes.
suffer through them. There's been very notable people, not even just notable people. I mean, we've known everyday people, right, that have suffered.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to speak their names. Um, but I think the time that it broke is interesting, right? Like you said, I think he found out back in January after consulting with doctors. And then it was like said in August, he spoke with TMZ, but he didn't want them to disclose it. And all of a sudden now you're in a House and Means committee meeting, a hearing, and, very important time for him as we, again, continue to follow this case. And all of a sudden you expose this. And when you expose this, it's like, well, what do you want people to do? You only expose something like that, right? If honestly, if you want sympathy, right? I mean, I have known people who have struggled through things that have never wanted to come out with it because they didn't want sympathy. And not saying that people don't deserve sympathy, right? Like, I don't think anyone should suffer in
Correct.
silence. I don't think anyone should suffer alone. But honestly, I think the bigger story here, and I hope people are realizing it, and this is coming from me as a journalist, and this is coming from me as a journalist professor, I'm worried about Anna Wolf. Sonia, with Mississippi Today, who is her and that nonprofit publication, essentially the former governor of Mississippi, essentially has basically tried to invoke her First Amendment rights, right? Try to make her reveal who her sources were. This is somebody who won a Pulitzer Prize for her investigating a 5-year span that she investigated and broke this very important story with a athlete who you think would know better than to do this to a state where people honestly do deserve more, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, welfare is there for a reason because people need it. So all that to say, I feel like he just tries to dominate the headlines. I'll say his team, right? I don't know him personally, so I cannot speak for him. But as someone who was pre-law in college and kind of understands the legal game, it's a smart move. It's a very
Mhm.
smart move.
Yes,
And I think
very
they're playing chess, not checkers. So I would say, I feel for him, but that doesn't distract what he did, right? Like,
much.
it's like, it's kind of like anything can happen in your life and you might change it around, but doesn't mean what you have done just goes away. And, I think there's a lot still on his part that needs to be done to make injustice, to make it right. So all that to say, I saw it, it broke. I was asked about it. I have pretty much said the same thing I've said to you. But like I said, I really hope that we're looking at a young reporter, an Anna Wolf, who did her job, by the way, who now Governor Phil Bryant, is attacking her and her very
Of
important
course.
publication in journalism. And like I said, this is important because journalists' First Amendment rights are so, so important. So I really do hope that that's a story that people are just giving as much attention to. If we're going to talk about that Ways and Means Committee hearing and his recent diagnosis that he now has chosen to expose.
Interesting. Very good. So, how does Favre's situation highlight the broader issues faced by former professional athletes regarding neurological health?
Well, honestly, I mean, we've had this whole conversation about concussions for a long time, right? Like every time I go to Super Bowl, one of the things I always do, there's always a bunch of retired players there. And then, a lot of them, a lot of times they want to talk about the concussion issue and they're there with groups that do the research and stuff like that. And so all that to say, I mean, look, we just watched Tua Tagovailoa, right, have a concussion, and we're having a conversation
Yes.
about if he should still play football, a very young, talented man. So all that to say, I mean, I think it brings it back to the forefront, but honestly, I think we're going to keep having the same conversation. So yeah, we've been having the same old tired concussion conversation and it doesn't seem like we've continued to move the needle more, right? Like I know we've had discussions about helmets and helmet safety, and I think that has kind of moved in a more positive direction, but they are still happening. And I know the NFL, to be fair, like to give credit, we now have the new concussion protocol. If you're even deep, still have it, right? You're not going back in that football game. But as a whole, I don't think we've had a healthy or conversation that's moved the needle enough for former players and what we
Yeah.
can do for them, right? Because it's like you don't want them to just play and be forgotten about. Like they gave their lives to this game, right? Like on my show Friday, I'm about to welcome Leonard Marshall on, a guy that got, really big name for the New York Giants and, obviously still a big name as an entrepreneur, but I think we just have to do a better job, not even just in football, but as a society, just caring better about people as they get older. I think that's unfortunately something that we, don't do a good job of. So all that to say, I'm glad we're talking about it, Sonia, but I am such a action-oriented person. What next? What are we
What
gonna,
next?
what are
What are
my
we gonna do
marching
about it?
orders? Yeah. And I think
Right.
that's kind of the part that we're missing, as a society. It's like, oh, I feel bad. That's how most people feel. Oh, I feel bad about it. And then you're on to the next thing. And I just feel like that next thing needs to be, what more can we do again? Because these are human beings that play the game that we love, right? These are human beings that are throwing each other around and knocking helmets. And yes, we love it. But at the end of the day, I would like to think we all want everybody to live a long, healthy, and prosperous life, no matter what they did. So all that to say, what they did for a career. So all that to say, like, I think we just need to do so much more in the retired player realm. And also, obviously, and hopefully what we do for the retired player realm does impact what we're doing for the current player. So this doesn't continue to be an issue, but I'm glad we're talking about it.
I am. Speaking of retirement, I really hope Tua makes a decision to do that. I'm concerned about him.
Yeah.
He's what, 31, 32, and he has
He's
so
younger
much
than that. He's a baby. He's younger than me. I mean, he's a baby.
Yeah,
Like
he
26,
has
I think. He's
to
young.
he has to realize he has more life, and
Yeah.
I'm concerned about him. I mean, you've made enough money, do something else, sir. I don't know.
Right.
So I wish him well. How has Favre's story impacted the conversation about Parkinson's disease in the context of sports and athletic health?
I mean, if anything, I think it's raised it to the forefront, right? Like if you put Brett Favre's name in, of course, fans are going to do that because we love our old players, from the past.
Yeah,
It's a top storyline, right? So I think when that
yeah.
happens, I think when it starts to kind of start trending again, it makes us have conversations.
Mhm.
And so I do think, you need to start somewhere, and usually that conversation is where you need to start. So it has done that. I think it's a reminder too. I think sometimes when you're not hearing these stories, again, it goes to the back of your brain, right? It leaves that frontal cortex and it goes to the back, and you're not thinking about it. And so I think,
Right.
it has done that. I think now the subject matter, meaning Brett Favre being the one to make us talk about it, it's interesting, right? Because again, there's some baggage there, right? If we're being
Yeah,
honest, it's not like it's just, all of a sudden a player who played football that maybe wasn't in scandal,
right.
is talking about it. So, I think it makes us have questions, but I will say maybe with him having the scandal, again, it makes people just talk even more. So
Mhm.
I will say, thankful for that. But like I said, I need the what's next, Sonia. Like, we've had this conversation time and time again. I've sat on multiple panels and like I've had this discussion, but again, like what's next? We have too many amazingly smart, intelligent researchers and scientists in America, I think, for us not to, be moving the needle and thread
I
on
agree.
even baby steps or trials or clinics or just information too. I think so many former players I talked to too are just looking for, quite frankly, basic information that they're not even always able to get.
That's true. You're right. You're right. Well, I wish Brett Favre well. I actually have a friend he's a couple years younger than me. We went to
Yeah.
college together. He
Nice.
was diagnosed with Parkinson
Oh my
last
gosh.
year.
Yeah.
So seeing somebody in their early 50s,
Mm.
that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, period, because of, I mean, what is his name? Michael J. Fox,
Yeah.
brilliant actor, and it affected him. But he kept working, but no telling how his career could have gone had that not happened to him. And he was diagnosed like in his 30s.
Mm.
So really, really sad. But I
I
wish
remember
him
that
well.
Michael J. You're right. That's probably one of the more notable people too. And that was, I think all of us were in shock, like, because like he's so
Yeah,
young.
totally shocked. But he is still like a brilliant actor. He amazes me
Yeah.
how he uses that and still can do what he needs to do. Um, but yeah, wish Brett Favre well regarding his diagnosis. But sir, I need you to pay that money back to the state of Mississippi and apologize and be done with it.
Ooh. Yeah, yes. An apology goes so far. I'm sorry. Words matter. When it first broke, I tweeted that and I said, Brett
You
Favre,
sure did.
I said it deserves an apology, and it has to be an honest apology. I don't
Correct.
know something that doesn't feel
He
authentic.
doesn't think he's done anything, for one, and I believe his attorneys have told him, do not apologize, because
Well, of
then
course,
that
his
means that
attorney
you
said
did
that
something wrong.
he didn't know where the
Correct.
money was from, right? But come on now, you don't just
We
walk.
have text messages where you're saying, will they know this money is coming from there? Will they think that I am
There were
supporting
some questions raised and some evidence that we
free school
saw.
and free? He said that.
But all that to say, that's again why Anna Wolf must be protected at all costs. She did
At
her
all
job.
costs.
She exposed corruption that needed to be
Yes, she did.
exposed, which again will hopefully benefit Mississippi in the long run. So hopefully this does not happen again, and those loopholes that they were able to get around are forever closed.
Yes,
Just had to
amen.
say.
She said, are forever closed. I
I'm
love
just,
it.
I mean, because
I
it's
love it.
so sad it happened. And if I'm honest with you, so
It is.
if it wasn't in Mississippi, if we're just being honest, if it were in a state maybe where, I don't know, more let's just be honest, more money's coming in, right? Like Mississippi, second,
California or somewhere. Yeah.
Mississippi, second poorest state in the country. This would be a bigger story, and I think there'd be more attention and outrage on it. Just got to say the facts.
I totally agree. So, Kelsey, we're gonna move on. We're gonna leave football and go to basketball. The
WNBA playoff time.
I know they
the
are.
Washington Mystics were this close. They were this close. I was this close to covering the Mystics in the playoffs.
I mean, it's been some great games. It's been, I mean, some amazing games. Yeah. But we're just going to talk about two first rounds, one in the Western, one in the Eastern. The New York Liberty, who were number one in the Eastern Conference this past regular season, and Las Vegas Aces, who are the number two in the Western Conference in regular season. Oh. The New York Liberty finished their first round sweep of the 8th-seeded Atlanta Dream with a 91-82 victory on Tuesday at Barclays. Yeah. Their second round matchup is to be determined. I'm sorry. Kelsey, how did the Liberty star players such as Breanna Stewart and Sabrina
Ionescu, I got you.
Ionescu. I've been practicing that all day. How did they perform during these playoffs?
My gosh. So if you didn't watch that game last night, Sabrina Ionescu, I think, scored about 30. Like she was hitting it when she needed to hit, and it was so exciting. And her with Jonquel Jones, who, by the way, is an whose alma mater is where I teach at. So shout out to George Washington University. It was a great 1-2 punch. And obviously Breanna Stewart is Breanna Stewart, right? Like we just watched her greatness in the Olympics. Yes. We know how great she can be. She's a 2-time MVP. I mean, this girl, she's won titles. Like we know what she's able to do, but I have to give Sabrina her props, because she balled and she helped to carry that team. And no surprise, they're back in the semis with Las Vegas. Who would have thought that? Because it was most of our thoughts at the beginning of this season. I mean, what they've been able to build in New York, it's so beautiful. I mean, and when you're watching these games, not just have to give props to New York, like you're seeing A-list celebrities at these games. Their mascot, Ellie, has become a brand, and people want to go see that. Like what they've been able to build in New York, has been oh so special. They just keep falling on the short end of the stick against Las Vegas, but they were the best regular season team. So you have to think that hopefully maybe this will be the cherry on top, right? Like, they're hungry for it. They've been fighting for it. And it's like, it's like when you keep getting close to something and it's like, it just keeps not happening. But again, I think this time they're like, hey, look, we had the league's best regular season record. And we're able to beat the Aces, in the regular season, but now it's like, it's postseason, and I think they mean business. So all I'm going to say, it was great. Atlanta fought hard, but New York is just, they're a stacked team. They're a stacked team. When Sabrina starts hitting, she's hard to stop.
Yeah. And, it's New York is one of the original teams that has never had a championship. So they're hungry for it. And
they want it. They added Breanna Stewart there for a reason, right? Like they want it.
You're right. And especially with all the attention that the WNBA is receiving. I mean, this could be the year. You never know. So we shall see. And you said they're so close. It's like Good Times, the show. They'll be about to get out the ghetto, and then this close. And James didn't get that job because he was 42 instead of 32. I mean, it's stupid stuff. It's just stupid stuff. They finally got out, but I mean, it took forever. So
it's gonna be hard though. This next one. I mean, I'm excited we get it this.
I am too. It's gonna be really, really good. So. Kelsey, how did the Liberty's defense limit the Dream scoring opportunities?
I think, again, it goes back to the rhythm, right? And like I said, I have to give Jonquel Jones so many props, but the Liberty, they look like a complete team on both ends of the floor. And that's going to be what's needed. Like you said, if they want to forever hoist that trophy up New York. And so I think that's and let's be honest, that defense is going to matter so much going against a high-powered Las Vegas Aces team. Sonia, have you seen that now 3-time MVP Asia Wilson in the season that she's been having? And so I think that defense is going to be key, right? I mean, so all that to say, I hope they're able to, obviously, we just talked about it though. In every sport, you need turnovers. You got to force those turnovers. And then, but capitalize on them. Like I said, because I don't care if you give me 9 turnovers if you didn't get any points on that. So that you have to disrupt the rhythm.
Mhm.
Those fast breaks in basketball, right? Gonna have to limit that. But all in all to say, like, I'm very pleased with what I saw from New York. Cause I feel like New York is always that team you're like, okay, they're good, but they just don't have that extra oomph. And now I'm like, okay, maybe that extra oomph I'm beginning to see because Las Vegas is gonna be such a hard team.
They're
But
gonna
they're
be
also
very
hungry for
hard.
that. They're hungry for that three-peat. They're chasing those Houston
Oh
Comets
yeah,
back in the day. So we have to see if the New York Liberty will be able to stop them.
that's awesome. So, what was the overall impact of home court advantage for the Liberty during the playoffs against the Dream?
Look, that crowd. I mean, that crowd. Like I said, I mean, it's so nice and it's so funny because, like I said, the last WNBA game I went to was when the Mystics were playing the Indiana Fever.
Mhm.
Last Mystics last home game, Caitlin Clark's last regular season game. And when I tell you, it was whenever Caitlin Clark comes to DC, the crowd is like it's offset, meaning Caitlin Clark's fans actually overtake the DC crowd,
Right.
right? It's like
That's
you're home, but
that's
you're
so
not home.
weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, I mean, it was screaming every time you touched the ball. But all that to say, on the other end, that was not the case in New York, right? Like you got to protect home turf, and there's no place.
Yeah.
And I think again, we look at the next round and then being able to have that advantage. I think it's going to matter, for them. So all that to say, like, and then you looked at who was in the crowd. Did you see Whoopi Goldberg? Was they got Whoopi Goldberg out the house?
Yeah.
Like that means something,
Whoopi
right?
don't go anywhere.
Well, I said Whoopi Goldberg's at the game,
Yes.
and Mike Lee, of course, is up front. So all that to say, I think, and there's of course the comfortability right there.
Mhm.
Traveling, right? It's like you don't have that taxing on you. So all that to say, I think the Liberty took full advantage, showing you what they needed to take full advantage of. And
Mhm.
I hate to see sweeps, but in this case, hey, they were the better team in both games. So it is what it is for the outcome.
That's true. We're moving on to the West Coast. MVP Asia Wilson and the two-time defending champions are moving on to the next round. They also had a first round sweep against the Seattle Storm.
Yeah.
Kelsey, how did the Aces star players like Asia and Kelsey Plum perform during the sweep?
Well, shout out to Kelsey Plum for being able to bounce back in that game too, right? She had a rough game one, but it's all about the comeback, right? I thought that was huge. Asia Wilson is Asia Wilson. I mean, you talk about 24 points and 13 rebounds. You think about her rebounds, only trailing Angel Reese, who was a rebound machine during the regular
Yes.
season. But she gives her team everything they need and more. And also, you look at Asia Wilson, in her game one and some of those missed shots, but again, being able to bounce back. She's just the epitome of greatness, right? Like, I mean,
I
it's like
love
her
her.
only challenge, it seems like, is herself. Shout out to her for getting that unanimous MVP. I feel like she showed us again why she is
Yes.
that. But also, like you said, Kelsey Plum being able to come back in the second game was huge. And it's a mental thing, right? When you've had a bad first game, being able to bounce back. And then Chelsea Gray, I started watching that game last night. And Chelsea Gray started instant clinic with the threes. And she was able to contribute 12 points. And Tiffany Hayes, who is not a name that's talked about enough. We're talking about a 12-year veteran, was able to come off the bench in game one and contribute massively. And then in game two, contribute on both ends of the floor. This team truly cares about each other, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's so different about this year. I remember when they were 6-6, they had come from a
Mhm.
tough loss to the Liberty. And
Yeah.
there was questions. There was questions. Like I think this was the first time people were like, I don't know if they have it in them still. But you think about what they went through, Sonia. Remember the white tee games that Asia Wilson had? She's like, I don't even deserve to dress up and look cute at the beginning of games, and how that
Right.
kind of changed the mentality. And then every time she's credited with something, she always shouts out how much it means to have her team around her. This was
She's
a
a
team
true
that
leader.
Yes, like this was a team in August. We were hearing that De'Erica Hamby, right, a former player, dropping a lawsuit against the WNBA and them, right? So they get back into the scrutiny and controversy. But all in all, through the noise, they've been able to keep the main thing. And they
Mhm.
were able to dominate again against a very good team, all in all, in Seattle. Now, I know it's another sweep, and you were like, Kelsey, okay, well, how's it a game if it was a sweep? But remember, they're playing people like Nneka Ogwumike, who is a baller. Skylar Diggins Smith, right? Also a baller. I know she probably wanted to have more points, but she was able to contribute. Jewel Lloyd was limited in that game as well, which I think was huge. And Gabby Williams, who I think, of course, everybody came to love in the Olympics. You guys remember the
Oh
Olympics?
yeah.
Gabby capturing the intention of all. So all in all, so they defeated a good team, but I think Asia Wilson is so much of a pillar and a rock for that squad. And when Asia Wilson is on, it's like you just got to try your best to do something.
That's true.
I don't
You're
know
right.
what it is because I don't know how you stop her, but it's something you try to do.
I love her. She definitely is a true leader, and they follow suit. They follow
They
suit.
do.
That's
They
today.
follow her lead. As Becky Hammond said, the greatest player to put on that uniform. And that's real.
Yeah, I love her. That's awesome. So, were there any standout moments in your mind on in that game?
I think Chelsea
Well,
Gray.
the series.
I think Chelsea Gray, if you remember, like during the Olympics, there were some people who were like, oh, she should be on the Olympic team and she lost her step coming back from injury. So I think just the momentum to get her going and that confidence, I thought it was huge. And I think a lot of those people who had something negative to say are all of a sudden switching their tone on social media. So I thought that was really, really huge. Like I said, and Tiffany Hayes deserves so much more credit for what she's been able to do, coming out of retirement, coming to that squad. Nothing like getting that extra bench energy. And honestly, Becky deserves all the credit too, because like I said, that team has been through a lot this season and this year, and you need somebody good at the helm, to motivate through. And you can really tell she loves her players. So I think also just the way that she coaches them, and I think she knows when they also can coach themselves, when they know when they're messing up. I think that's also been a special part of this Las Vegas squad.
Awesome. So, Kelsey, how did the Aces capitalize on their strengths such as rebounding and fast break opportunities against the Storm?
As I mentioned, A'ja Wilson, I told you her rebounds alone, 13 rebounds and 2 blocks in game 2. What? When you can limit those second chance points, right? It means something in basketball. You can't have anybody, just immediately go back up. And you said it, she sets the tone. And so I think all in all, again, it's playing disciplined basketball. And I think when Las Vegas is locked in, they're able to do that. And you have to control the rebound game. You want to be in the paint. And like I said, we know how great A'ja Wilson can be, not even just in the paint, right? She has a phenomenal game all around the floor. But I thought that was huge. So again, I think being able to set that tone and establish that tone, it meant something. So again, I can't believe it, but I really feel like they're going for a three-peat, Sonia.
I do too. I have a feeling. I mean, and it will be great to see the Liberty go against. It's going to be nice. I think they're going to do a three-peat as well.
Like you want the Liberty, right? Because it's like you want it to happen, but the Aces just have everything going for them. And how can you not love what this squad has established and built?
Right.
So I wouldn't be mind seeing another championship parade popping bottles out in Las Vegas.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I really think they're going to do a three-peat as well. So, Kelsey, last question. What lesson should the Aces take from this sweep as they prepare for the next rounds of the playoffs?
That's a good question. I think all in all, I think it's the next woman up mentality. Like I said, when you have players that can come off the bench and score, sometimes it's just not your night, right? It just happens. Just like sometimes it's not your day. Like you might be at work and keep trying to do stuff and just stuff isn't happening for you. And you just don't know why. So all in all to say, I think that next woman up mentality, which essentially is saying you got to trust your teammates. And I think that's something A'ja Wilson preaches all the time. Becky Hammond talked about how she always preaches to the team. When you make your teammates better, you get better.
You get better.
Right. So all in all to say, I think that's what it is. I think it's trusting your teammates. You never know. Like I said, I gave the example of Kelsey Plum, right? The first game, it just wasn't her game, right? And we know how talented of a player, Kelsey Plum is. And we know when she hits shots, she can hit shots. But when she struggled from the field, right, 1 for 8, she was able still to bounce back. So I think that's what it is. They still trusted her, right? Still handed her the rock, still handed her the ball, and she was able to knock down shots in that next game. I think that's going to be what it is. You never want it to be, we know A'ja Wilson is A'ja Wilson, but she can't do it alone. She's not going to be able to do it alone, especially against New York. So that trust, I think that trust has to be there, and you just never know, which woman is going to be the one to step up big.
Awesome. Great show today, Kelsey. Thank you so much.
This was fun. Thank you so much.
But before we leave, we have a game to play. And that's
almost forgot the game.
How do y'all forget the game? And that's what you and Charles Bishop always forget the game.
We forget the game. We're old folks. We forget.
Oh, whatever, you baby. So we're gonna do WNBA trivia today.
Oh my gosh! All right, let's see.
It'll be fun. Hey, we're both learning together. Which team has the most WNBA championships?
Okay, so Las Vegas just got 2, so it can't be them. Oh, let's see. But is it? No, it's not them.
Mentioned one earlier.
It's not in DC. So you know what? Because the 4-peat, Houston.
Okay, who else?
Who else? Houston, Seattle. Okay, I was like, wait a minute.
One more.
Trying to think who else. It's obviously not New York, not DC, not Atlanta. Where else am I going?
The state where Prince is from.
Oh, Minnesota Lynx. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, I should, I'd be forgetting them, but we'll watch them soon.
Because I mean, they're real quiet. They're under the radar. But yeah, they have 4. So 4. Yeah, those 3 have 4 each.
Impressive.
Yeah. Which player is known for having the most career playoff assists in WNBA history?
Ooh, most career playoff assists. Candace Parker's coming to mind, but I feel like it's not her. Give me a clue.
Well, she just passed Sue Bird. Sue Bird had 364.
Hey, she passed Sue Bird.
She has 365.
It's not Asia Wilson, is it? Oh, Diana Taurasi.
Nope.
No, not Diana.
Courtney Vandersloot.
Courtney with New York. Oh, I should have got that one. Okay, and I was just watching Courtney. Well, props to Courtney. I feel like she's not talked about enough.
Yeah, she has Sue by 1. I think she has by one assist. Yep.
Okay.
Who was the first player to win the first 3-time WNBA MVP 2000, 2002, and 2005, and the first 3-time WNBA Defensive Player of the Year 2000, 2002, and 2003?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I should know this off the top of my head. 2000, 2002. I'm trying to say, okay, this is when I was young and watching women's basketball. Of course, immediately to your head comes like Lisa Leslie and Cheryl Swoops, but I'm like, that's just...
Well, okay, you said one of their names.
Lisa has to be, right? Oh, Cheryl. And put some respect on Cheryl's name. All this hate towards Cheryl right now.
Look, I was about to say, she named her baby after my boyfriend, Mike. Well, I couldn't say Michael Jordan, so she would have known this.
Aww.
I'm just kidding about Michael Jordan. Yeah. People know how I love Michael Jordan. Since I was 12. Which player won the WNBA Finals MVP award in 2021?
Oh my gosh. 2021. Wait, was that the... No, that was before Mystics year. Or was that Mystics year? My gosh, my mind is starting to crumble. It wasn't Mystics year, right? Or was it 2020? It must have been 2020. So 2021, okay, they're trying to go through. So that was Aces. So it had to be Miss Asia Wilson.
Correct. Your mind is fine. It's not crumbling. How many teams make the playoffs in the WNBA?
Let's see, it had to be the 8th seed. You had to get to number 8. So what is that, 8 teams?
8 teams. Which team made a historic run to the WNBA Finals as an 8th seed?
That's a good question. This is recently?
No.
Just in history? Jeez.
And you said their name a couple of times today.
Okay, so I mentioned Seattle. I mentioned not Vegas. New York. No, not New York. Wasn't my Washington? Who else did I mention today? Minnesota? No, they wouldn't have been an 8th seed. I'm trying to think who else I mentioned.
One more.
Who else did I mention today?
Who all have 4 rings each? You just named.
Okay, so for Houston. Okay, so Houston.
Okay.
And then we said.
You just said it. Houston. It's Houston.
Oh, it's Houston. Show us the comments, which we need to bring back. I hope that 16th one is in Houston.
Yes.
I hope
that was in 1997.
Oh, prime day.
Right. What is the highest total attendance for a WNBA crowd? I'm sorry. Yeah. What is the highest? Who had the highest total attendance for a WNBA game?
That has to be where I just was, right? Mystics and Fever, 20,771, which I'm so thankful to be part of. My gosh. We're still talking about that in DC. I mean, wow. Standing room only tickets, have not seen that before.
So yours is 771. I got 20,711. So it's 71771.
You might be right. It's one of those. Like, I just know that's my birthday, 7/17. So my birthday's in one of the numbers.
We can leave it as that. Who holds the record for the most points scored in a single WNBA playoff game?
Candace Parker and Maya Moore coming to my head.
We're not going to do playoffs, just a regular season game. Who holds the... No, that is right. Playoff game. I'm sorry.
Candace Parker and Maya Moore immediately came to my head. So not Candace, not Maya Moore.
You said her name today too.
Diana Taurasi?
Nope. Boy, you want Diana in there bad, don't you?
I know. I'm like, DT has to get something. I'm trying for you, Diana, if you're watching this
She
show.
is the oldest player in the WNBA.
Which is wild. Right?
42, but no. I almost
Lisa Leslie? Was it Lisa Leslie? No?
She's a current player.
Oh, current player. It's what? That was was Asia. I'm trying to think who else was sports.
New York.
Oh, Brianna. Was it Brianna?
43 points.
Okay,
43
Stewie.
points.
She's a beast. I should have thought of her.
Right. Who was named Unanimous Associate Press Rookie of the Year this year?
The one and only Caitlin Clark, balling for the Indiana Fever.
Baller, yes. How do you think they're going to do, her team? I mean, I don't think they're going to make it, but...
She struggled shooting. It goes back, she has to trust her teammates. Like, I mean, hopefully she finds her shot. But if not, I think it's going to be a lot on Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell to step up, step up big time. And the Fever might also have to rely on their bench. So I think it's really big. I think they have to score in the paint. They got to score in the paint. Yeah. You can't always rely on behind the arc. Mm-hmm. So all that to say, I don't know. It's a tough matchup, but Caitlin has to.
Yeah, it's good experience for her. So at least she has a playoff under her belt. Next year, probably be.
And Lexi Hole too. I think needs to get so much more credit because that girl brings so much. Like both sides of the floor. But you're right. I think people have to remember that Caitlin is a rookie. She's a rookie. I know she's phenomenal and stuff, but like she is a rookie at the end of the day. And no matter how it ends, it's going to be an amazing experience for her.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Well, Kelsey, it's been a great show. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media as well as Listen In With KNN.
Yes, I have 2 episodes dropping of Listen In With KNN this week. Hope you guys tune in. I have Evan Crawford, who is a VIP host for DraftKings here in DC, joining me. Also the godfather of DC Sportsbooks. And then I have 2-time Super Bowl champion Leonard Marshall joining me on the live stream show. Check it all out at listeninwithknn.com. You can also check out my personal website, KelseyNicoleNelson.com, to keep up with the latest with me. And I'm on social media, The Real K Nelson, as well as just Kelsey Nicole Nelson on Facebook and LinkedIn. So thank you so much, Sonia, for having me. It was a blast.
Absolutely. And guys, you can follow me. She Say Sports on Facebook. She Say Sports 23 on Instagram. And please subscribe to our YouTube page, She Say Sports. Well, that's our show for today. Kelsey's Corner for She Say Sports. We'll see you next time. Bye.
She say.